Good morning, everyone. You're welcome to this session, which is for the signing of MoU between UNIVEN and ICGEB. And we are very happy to see everyone who are here represented. We know it's a busy period, but we are so excited to see everyone, and actually to see that this is happening now. My name is Shegun Badide from the University of Venda. Also to let you know that this is the period that we are celebrating our 40th anniversary as a university, and it's so interesting to see this particular event taking place right in the middle of our celebration. And we are so excited because we know it is not an easy task, to be far away from everything else, but to be very close to those that matters. And that is why I said earlier that this is a very important event for us as a university. You will see some of our students are also here, to witness this particular interesting occasion that is taking place today. I'll be the co-chair with Luis Sabini, who will also introduce himself later. I'm the Acting Director of International Relations at the University of Venda. And just to open and welcome everyone, who have made this to happen, and we are all witnesses to this, to see that we're able to formalize our MOU. We know certain activities are already started, but nevertheless, this is the grand occasion to make sure that what we are doing is formalized. And the excitement, we also come, we go on to become a vibrant activities happening within the MOU. And that is why we don't want to take it lightly, that we are starting this and we are doing this at this time. So thank you very much. We will go right into the program. Like I said, you are welcome. Feel free, to ask any question when it's time for Q&A, so that we can also be able to understand everything. Why are we doing this, and what is the import of this great occasion that we are formalizing. We know our University of Venda, we cherish mutual collaboration and also a form of reciprocity in partnerships. We don't just want to be an onlooker in an interesting occasion or an MOU, just staying on the fence to see what is happening. They want to participate, want to actually be involved, want to be actively involved with whatever is taking place in this particular MOU. I want to see it through. And now we believe this is a strategic partnership, in terms of what we stand to gain, as a university, who is focusing on research activities, exposing our students and staff, to international, colleagues, research activities, and also to be able to see that, they stand the chance also to be able to promote social impacts, which we cherish so much as a university, giving back to the community, participating in community engagement, making sure that research activity can also reach, the greater community, the larger community, which is the community around us. And also, it has influence globally as well. So I welcome you to this occasion, and I believe you are also going to gain one or two things, as you see us go or proceed in the program today. So I would like to introduce some of our colleagues that are here, especially seated at the high table from the University of Venda. The team is led by our able Vice Chancellor, Dr. Bernard Interleni, who is, I believe, shaking his mind and also not only his head towards every one of us. Thank you very much. And we also have seated next to him on the far right, far left, is Professor Jude Ondiabo, who is the Acting Executive Dean, Faculty of Science, Engineering, and Agriculture. And good to know that he's an expert in his field. And good to know that one of his students is also part of ICGEB, Dennis, who's also there, seated. Thank you very much. We also have Professor Sami Amidou, who's also a professor in the Faculty of Science, Engineering, and Agriculture, Department of Microbiology, who is also here with some of his students. If you are Sami student, just wave your hand wherever you are. Say hello to everyone. Thank you. Good to see you too. And also we have Mr. Tabo Dihali, who is the Partnership Officer from the Directorate of International Relations. Also, actually, most of the activities behind the scene concerning this program was carried out by Tabo with his energy. And we're happy to see that it's happening right now. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if I've missed anyone. If you are from University of Venda, maybe you can take this opportunity to rise up and introduce yourself to us. Okay, so I will now hand over to Dr. Luz Sabini, who will introduce our partner from ICGEB, and then we hand the baton over to Ms. Kaba, who will also introduce the DSI colleague and also present to us the overview of this particular MOU that is being signed today. Thank you very much. Over to you, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ICGEB, I also like to welcome you here today, and I'll make the introductions for the ICGEB team. On my left-hand side, we have Dr. Lawrence Banks, Director General of ICGEB. Together with us, we have other colleagues, Dr. Dino Karselunki, the Director of ICGEB New Delhi, and Dr. Shams, who is also a group leader in ICGEB New Delhi. On the back, Dr. Vittorio Venturi, who is the scientific coordinator for ICGEB, and Dr. Miranda Thomas, who is the scientist in the group of HPV research in Trieste, and Ms. Claudia Russo, who is also our communications officer in ICGEB Cape Town. I think Dr. Indolo was already introduced, but also is the group leader of biopesticides in ICGEB Cape Town. I don't think I'm missing anyone from us, and then I'll pass the floor to Ms. Chaba for the introductions for the DSI team, please.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting us to this auspicious occasion. As indicated, my name is Mampe Chaba, Chief Director, Multilateral Cooperation in Africa at the Department of Science and Innovation. And with me today in this room, I have a few colleagues that I'd like to introduce to you from the DSI, starting with Mr. Toto Matsidiso, the newly appointed Director, Global Partnerships. If you can just wave where you are. Thanks, Toto. I also have Ms. Tato Morokong, who's the Assistant Director responsible for Africa Multilateral Engagements. Can we wave for us, Tato? We also have Ms. Zama Mtetwa, who's our Communications Officer from the DSI. Zama. And we have an honorary member of the DSI, my daughter, Butsilo, over there. Yeah, the DSI is a partner and a sponsor for the Bio-Africa Convention. So there are many others from the DSI, not particularly in this room, but supporting the convention as well. Thanks. I think maybe I should...
I think I pass the floor to you again, that you can do your overview. Thanks.
Hello. Good morning once again to the two co-chairs this morning, Dr. Seguno Patire, the Acting Director, International Relations and Partnerships at the University of Venda, Dr. Louise Zerbini, Acting Director of the ICGEB Cape Town Component, Dr. Lawrence Banks, the Director General of the ICGEB, Dr. Bernard Tambeleni, the Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Venda, to our esteemed ladies and gentlemen who are taking part in this 5th iteration of the Bio-Africa Convention. Good morning to you all. It gives me a great honor and privilege to be here today to witness the signing of the implementation plan to support the MoU between the University of Venda and the ICGEB, which outlines a clear commitment towards making a difference and a significant contribution enhancing the lives of our marginalized communities through science. Back in 2004, when I joined the Department of Science and Technology, which is what was known at the time, South Africa became a member of the ICGEB, and a rigorous process to bid towards hosting the ICGEB Africa component began. The decision to submit a bid to host the ICGEB Cape Town component was not taken lightly. It signified a recognition of the immense contribution that the ICGEB could make in addressing a number of challenges faced by the continent, including food security and the diseases that are ravaging our continent. An intense bidding process thus began, supported at the time by our former minister, Dr. Ben Gubani, and later by former minister, Dr. Musibudi Mangena. We were also supported by our former DG, Dr. Rob Adam, our former DDG, Desigen Naidu, Dr. Iqbal Parker, who was the first director of the ICGEB Cape Town component. An extensive lobbying process thus began, which included presentations to numerous government departments within the South African system. We also had to extensively get into discussions with the SADC regional economic community structures, indicating our intent. We engaged with a number of key continental players and other global members of the ICGEB at the time. And we had numerous trips to Trieste and New Delhi, supported by, at the time, the former DG of the ICGEB, Dr. Paral, and Mr. Deshori Pandeli, together with my colleagues Ben Taram and DDG Mboneni Moofa. Our bid was not an easy one, as it was against two other African giants in the biotech field at that time, Nigeria and Tanzania. But the bidding process was subsequently ended, and South Africa was chosen to host the ICGEB Cape Town component. The component was launched in 2007 at the University of Cape Town Institute of Infectious Diseases and Molecular Medicine, IIDMM. I'm not sure how many people know this, but the ICGEB component started operating without a signed host country agreement due to two clauses in the agreement that were a little bit of a challenge, but were later amicably resolved. Those two clauses referred to the intellectual property and the taxation of South Africans that are employed at the ICGEB. These two issues were eventually resolved, and the host country agreement was signed at ministerial level on the 18th of March in 2019, after being tabled at the National Assembly and the Council of Provinces as required by the South African Constitution. The signing of the host country agreement commenced a process for the instrument of ratification to be deposited by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DERCO, and for the host country agreement to enter into force. The ICGEB Cape Town component is largely funded by the Department of Science and Innovation, and the relationship between the DSI and the ICGEB component is guided by a number of instruments: a 5-year strategic plan, 3-year contracts in line with the government's medium-term expenditure framework, and annual operational agreements. That's a lot of paperwork, right? The component runs 6 research groups on biopesticides, cancer genomics, cytokines and diseases, bioinformatics, plant system biology, and virology, focusing on emerging viruses with a focus on Africa. And to increase the ICGB's footprint in the continent, an advisory group made up of biotech experts in the continent was set up to provide advice on research focus of the ICGB Cape Town component. Today, I'm proud to say that out of 65 ICGB member states, the ICGB has a total of 22 member states in Africa, 9 in the Middle East, 13 in Europe, 5 in Central America and the Caribbean, 8 in South America, and 8 in Asia. The ICGB is also now a proud and valuable partner to the Bio-Africa Convention. It hosts the ICGB Women Scientists in Africa program, the WeStars program, the SA version of that program, which is called the South African Women in Biotech Program, SAWIP, which was launched earlier this year. These programs aim to promote the participation of African women in science and technology in alignment with the ICGEB's mandate, the United Nations Agenda on Sustainable Development, as well as the programmatic priority of the South African government on women empowerment, and to support also the South African bioeconomy strategy. The ICGEB has become a critical partner to the DSI and fully supports the mandate of the DSI, the 2019 STI white paper, and the decadal plan. Through its 22 African member states, the ICGEB supports the DSI Pan-African agenda and the foreign policy mandate, which is premised on a better Africa, a better South Africa in a better Africa and a better world. Noting that South Africa cannot afford to progress and develop alone like an island within the continent, but has to continue to strive to support the continent's developmental agenda. The ICGEB, through its 22 African member states, also supports the AU Agenda 2063, which aspires to a prosperous Africa based on an inclusive growth and sustainable development, and to the 2024 STI strategy for Africa, which is anchored on, among others, building Africa's technical competencies and creating an enabling environment for STI development in the continent. The ICGEB is also perfectly aligned to the SADC industrialization strategy, with 2 pillars supporting agro-processing and pharmaceuticals, and also supports regional value chains by funding collaborative research projects and training courses in Africa. The University of Venda and the ICGEB MoU perfectly responds to the DSI's drive to transform the national system of innovation. The National Development Pillar 1 speaks to a strong and inclusive economy, and the 2019 white paper responds to this through a target that aims to expand, transform, and enhance the responsiveness of the national system of innovation through a strong, transformed, inclusive, responsive, and coherent NSI. Outcome Indicator 1 of the NDP refers to the percentage increase in the number of formalized partnerships between different categories of actors within the NSI. Today, we are extremely proud to witness the signing of this agreement. UNIVEN, which is an historically disadvantaged institution, which we are so proud of, has significantly grown from strength to strength over the years. And signing this agreement with the ICGEB, we are confident that through the leadership that continues to be provided by Dr. Lawrence Banks, Dr. Louis Zerbini, Dr. Bernard Ntambeleni, that the partnership, that the University of Venda and the leadership of the entire University of Venda, we expect nothing but excellence from this partnership between University of Venda and the ICGEB. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to a lot from you.
We now call on Professor Jude Odiambo, Acting Executive Dean, Faculty of Science, Engineering and Agriculture, to do his presentation on the overview of this particular MOU. Thank you.
Director, ICGEB, Dr. Louis Zabini, Ms. Mampei Chaba, Chief Director, Africa Multilateral Cooperation, all other distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation will focus on the overview of the ICGEB and University of Venda MoU. My presentation will focus on two aspects. First is the possible areas of collaboration based on the MoU, and second, the initiated and possible activities for immediate implementation. The first possible collaboration is a joint fellowship program, and in this instance we'll have UNIVEN hosting ICGEB awarded fellows, and likewise we have selected UNIVEN supported students who will be able to access and utilize training opportunities in ICGEB laboratories in member countries, and also through the ICGEB Smart Fellowship Program, where the students will have access to training and exchange opportunities with other laboratories in ICGEB member countries. The next possible collaboration activities is early career return grants. This is a scenario where young researchers who are willing to establish their own independent research programs at UNIVEN can apply for research grants through ICGEB CRP grant program. The next possible collaboration activity is cooperation on areas of joint scientific interest and expertise. And the possible focus area in which the two institutions can collaborate is in agricultural, biotechnology, and health-related sciences. Also, to explore areas of commonality where ICGEB and UNIVEN researchers can collaborate on specific projects. Then there is training workshops and meetings. This will involve participation of UNIVEN in the ICGEB meetings and courses programs, ICGEB sponsored scientific meetings, workshops, theoretical and practical courses in life sciences, which are to be co-organized by UNIVEN and ICGEB and to be hosted in Limpopo province. So basically those are the possible activities which can be undertaken under this MOU. Now moving on to initiated activities and activities which can be implemented immediately. First one, we have our Department of Biochemistry and Microbiology, which submitted a proposal to ICGEB. There was a proposal for call for training and capacity building, and they are waiting for feedback, and if the funding is awarded, the department proposed to host an ICGEB-driven proteomics workshop around early 2023. This is tentative, but it will all depend on when the funds are available. Then, possible activities which can be implemented immediately. The first one, UNIVEN is expected to submit a notice of interest to initiate a proteomics center, and this will be championed by the Department of Biochemistry and Microbiology. The department is ready to initiate the research, but they still require funding to buy the equipment, as well as to employ the technicians who are qualified to man the equipment. And I was also informed of the visit by Dr. Banks during his visit at UNIVEN. He visited the lab. He had some talk with the researchers there, and through UVC, they indicated that there was supposed to be some form of support through ICGEB. So they are still very hopeful that they will be able to get the necessary support so that they can initiate the proteomics research lab. The other possible area is from the Department of Animal Science within the agriculture programs. We have our Center of Excellence in Assisted Animal Reproduction. This center intends to conduct capacity building workshops on intracytoplasmic sperm injections, nuclear transfer fluorescence training, assisted hatching of blastocyst, harvesting of stem cells, ultrasound, multiple ovulation, and embryo transfer. So there is also a high possibility of researchers from the center collaborating with researchers from ICGEB in these areas. Then from the Department of Plant and Soil Sciences, most likely area of collaboration which can be implemented immediately is the research on metagenomics, metatranscriptomics, metaproteomics, and microbiomes, with a focus on entomopathogenic microorganisms, especially in terms of the management of insects. And this leading eventually to the implementation of these microorganisms in the biological control of specific insect pests. And finally, other activities are likely to fall in place once these collaborative activities take root. More researchers will become aware and show interest in the collaboration. Usually when an MOU is signed, sometimes you find that some of the colleagues may not really be knowing exactly what they're supposed to do. Some may be a bit ignorant, but once activities start taking pace, then there will be some interest. And the following units or departments at UNIVEN are also likely to be involved. From the agricultural programs, we have the genetics and plant breeding, and also botany. We also have the recently launched SA MRC UNIVEN Antimicrobial Resistance and Global Health Research Unit, as well as the HIV, AIDS, and Global Health Research Program, including COVID-19 research activities. So we look forward to colleagues from these units and departments also joining and participating actively in this MOU. So thank you for listening.
Exciting presentation, and also giving us direction onto how we can implement some of these activities in the MOU that is going to be signed today. So we now move on to invite our able Vice Chancellor and Principal, Dr. Bernard Intambeleni, the Vice Chancellor and Principal of University of Venda, to do a remark from the university. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Program Director. You'll just maybe put my few slides that I've prepared for me. While they're doing that, let me also take this time to really thank Dr. Banks and also Dr. Zebini for making time that University of Venda become part of this. I need to also thank the Department of Science and Innovation for ensuring that the University of Venda also become a player into these initiatives. When last year you visited the University of Venda, I said this to you, that I was quite very pleased that the University of Venda become part of this network. In my previous life, where I spent a few years at the National Research Foundation, I was in charge of the program that used to ensure that funding from the DSI gets into the University of Cape Town. So quite very pleased that, lately now that the University of Venda also will become part of that network. And for me, it's quite a very huge achievement. Thank you so much, colleagues. I just prepared very few slides that I just want to quickly just to brief for those of you who don't know yet, the University of Venda in its outlook. That we are just 40 years this year. We're celebrating our 40 year this year. And just say by way of introduction, that we are established in 1982. And, as I said earlier, that, this marks our 40th anniversary. And there's a number of activities that have been lined up, towards, October and November, where we'll be celebrating this milestone. So some of you also, I will be glad that, you can able to make it part of those. I've already spoken to Dr. Banks. We sort of agree that, somewhere by November, you'll able also to be joining us. Thank you so much for agreeing to do that, And that we're very close to Kruger National Park. Once you are the University of Venda, it's about 20, 25, kilometers to what we call the Punda Maria Gate. Quite a very serene space where we are located. And we've got about 4 faculties. The first one is the Health Sciences, Humanities, Social Science and Education, Management, Commerce and Law, and lastly, the Science, Engineering and Agriculture. We've got a mix of our international students, and because in our view and also academics, that you cannot be a university only for the locals. You're going to ensure that you're able to really have other mix of other people, because that's how we make you dynamic. And we've got about 200 or so international students, which is about 2%. And this is the number that we want to ensure that we're able to also grow, because also make sure that we're able to learn from different settings, And we're quite pleased about that public aspect. As I said, we are situated in Toyando, which in our view is a very fast-growing town. For those of you who have been maybe there a few years ago, a lot of change has sort of taken place. And it's quite a very exciting space to see what is happening. We are a designated, comprehensive university. For those of you who know, there are about 26 public universities. And then among those 26, you got 3 types. You go to traditional university, your UOTs, and also the comprehensive university, as I said. So we are part of that, as a comprehensive university. And our student population is around, 15,600. with about 961 staff component. I had to write a very difficult letter early this year to the Minister of Higher Education to say, Minister, if you could just allow me that in the next 3 years that I don't grow my enrollment targets because of the spaces that I really need to accommodate these numbers, you know. And I'm still waiting for that letter from the minister's response. And otherwise, we expected, you know, by next year to be about 17,000, then 19, and then 2021 in the outer year, which is quite a good number. About 12% of our, you know, students are in postgraduate. And this is the point that is normally excites me, that, you know, 43% of our staff members have doctoral degrees, which is above the 37% average in the national, you know, sector. So quite a very huge achievement. We've got lots of our academics with PhDs in that space. It's something that, you know, very quite excited to ensure how do we begin to support them to really do the research that we want them to do in that space. And this, of course, I'm not going to really bore you with the detail, just in terms of our vision that we want to become a university-leading and engaged scholarship in all its facets. And then we want to ensure that we produce graduates that are locally relevant and also globally competitive, because we don't train students for this market, but also for outside markets, and that's our view in terms of that team. And those are values that I'm not going to read. And in terms of our plan that we sort of implemented last year, which we call the UNIVEN Strategic Plan 2021-2025, we identify 4 thrusts, which are quite very strategic for us. The first one, we said we want to focus into what we call the student-centeredness and engaged scholarship, the kind of support that we must be able to bring to our students. That, you know, once you spend your 3-4 years at the University of Venda and you have to leave and go somewhere, that you really make sure that, you know, you got the best from the University of Venda. And secondly, we said we want to become an entrepreneurial university, because you cannot, in this day and time, training students just for work, to look for work. How do you begin to ensure you infuse them and also come up with some, you know, capabilities for them to build something that is not there? So that's something that we're focusing into. And we are also focusing in what we call the governance and outstanding scholarship, because we're going to need to have systems in place to support these research and these centeredness that we talk about to become an outstanding university. And lastly, we want to ensure that we focus on our linkages, partnerships, and also internationalization, which also speaks around the very same memorandum of agreement we'll be signing that speaks to that particular aspect. Quite very important for us. And these are all niche areas that, you know, we are quite very proud of at the University of Venda, and we are busy revising this list with a view that, you know, able to focus ourselves into, you know, further areas that will, you know, contribute to our national development plan as a county. But we focus much more and very good in terms of our African heritage. We're quite very proud of that and ensure that we're able to really move on that. The issues around our edge systems and this regional development issues that we are also ensuring that we're able to do that. You know, the human and animal health that you also talked, you heard about when Professor Diambo was here. That's something that's quite very opportune for us, and also in the region where we are located, you know, ensuring that we're able to have that leverage in the system. We also are quite very proud around our law and education. You know, our law department, faculty, quite very strong in our view, punching above its weight. Also issues around water, hydrology, mining engineering, agricultural engineering, physics, and chemistry, which are quite very important for us. Also issues around the food and nutrition, the well-being, issues around the human rights and diversity, quite very important in the life of our country. And lastly, issues relating to the ecosystems and the livelihood, geography, and this rural sustainability that we have to always be mindful of. You know. So those are the kind of things that are quite very opportune and key for us as a university that we want to ensure that we're able to push forward. You know. And lastly here, we're just quite very impressed that, you know, just last week I was in Pretoria, in Johannesburg, where, you know, there were about 4 units that were launched nationally. You know, 2 are in the University of Cape Town, and then 1 is in the University of Venda, and the other 1 is University of Johannesburg. And we're quite very pleased that we were able to compete with the likes of UCT, UJ, and able to really emerge as a strong partner to receive or to host this new extramural research unit that has been launched by the South African Medical Research Council. And we're quite very happy about that in terms of looking into this antimicrobial resistance and the global health research units under the directorship of Professor Pascal Besson. And these are the kind of things that we are quite very excited about. Now, more so to say that in terms of our location, we find ourselves quite very closer to, universities in Mozambique, very close to universities in Zimbabwe, Botswana. So we're going to have to make sure that we leverage the region in terms of the issues that will be done here in this extramural, research unit. And we're quite very pleased about that achievement. And again, in terms of our research, about 36 of our researchers are rated. Quite very happy about that. A number of, professors, adjunct professors, number of PhDs, staff with PhDs, and a number of postdoc, and all other things that you can see over there, which is something that's exciting for us to do. And then, of course, coming to this slide around, this MOU in brief, to say what is there for us in terms of these joint fellowship programs that you also heard from Professor Odiambo, who spoke about, what will be the leveraging effect of this to really make sure that the investor is able to take its space in how we're able to do that. The issues around these early career return grants that, in our view, will also unlock the blockages that otherwise we see in the space that we are in. So we are quite very pleased around those initiatives that, this network is able to offer to our researchers at the investor vendor. And lastly, the issues around the community outreach project that will be quite very key for us to ensure that, this work that is done, able to find its way to our communities. In conclusion, I'm saying to you that as an investor vendor, we are quite very committed. And I will ensure from my side that, we're able to support the implementation of this memorandum. I'm somebody that believes that, you don't just sign this memorandum of understanding for them just to be in the desk, to be filed somewhere. We're going to have to make sure that, we're able to work something around and able to support our researchers. So you got my full commitment and my full support for us to be able to ensure that we deliver on this memorandum. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor, for the comprehensive overview of the University of Venda and the university's strategic plan for the future. And also, I would like to also thank you for your full support for this initiative, which I think is pivotal for us to move forward. Thank you. I would like now to call Dr. Lawrence Banks to give his remarks.
Honourable Vice Chancellor, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends, it really is a joy to be here today. This is a truly momentous occasion for the ICGEB, and we are delighted to be entering into this partnership with the University of Venda. As an international organisation, we are dedicated to ensuring that the fruits of modern molecular biology and biotechnology reach the populations that most need it within our member countries. And this is none more so than on the continent of Africa, and of course within our host country, South Africa. This means working with partners across Africa, and in this particular instance, we are deeply grateful to the Department of Science and Innovation who have made this collaboration possible, and who have really been instrumental in encouraging us to work with HDIs in South Africa. And I learned a great deal this last year in realizing that these are wonderful partnerships and are really, hopefully will provide benefit to South Africa and beyond, but is also extremely valuable to the ICGEB in fulfilling our mandate. I should like to add that while we have currently 22 member countries within Africa, this number is growing rapidly, and we have 6 new countries that have either just ratified or in the process of ratification. And I think from this particular collaboration, which is particularly relevant, is that Zimbabwe and Botswana have joined the ICGEB community. And so this is going to be very relevant, I think, as we just heard from the Vice-Chancellor, for promoting international collaboration within the local region surrounding the University of Venda. I realise today that the main mission is the signing of the MoU, but as we've heard, MoUs are just paper, and it's what actually the concrete actions that come from these is really the key point, and whether there's any meat to the collaboration. And I'm really delighted to say that our interactions with Venda have been fantastic. We already have interactions occurring between different groups. We heard earlier that there's already a young scientist been collaborating with one of the groups on biopesticides in Cape Town. We have recently run meetings and courses within Africa, and students from the University of Venda have been supported to take part in those events, including one quite recently in Harare on HPV and cervical cancer. And I would also like to sort of preempt the announcement concerning meetings and courses for next year to say that I'm very confident that funding will be announced for supporting the course on proteomics that is being proposed to be held in University of Venda early next year. And these are wonderful collaborations that are taking place without a signature on paper. So I'm very happy that these interactions have already initiated. I should also like, one of the major activities within this program, apart from the issues we've just discussed, is also to promote internationalization amongst our 66 member countries. And also to not forget that we are not just the Cape Town laboratories, but we have a big institute in New Delhi and also in Trieste. And the idea is that where scientific collaborations are relevant, then there will also be exchange and visits of students and faculty to those 2 institutes in India and Italy. And I should also add that we're also extremely grateful both to the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and to the Department of Science and Innovation here in South Africa for supporting programs for women scientists, particularly on the African continent. And although these fall outside of the current agreement for HDIs, those programs are accessible and open for young women scientists from the University of Venda. And so I do encourage you to also think about those particular programs. So I think we're at a great stage. I'm really very happy to be signing today with the Vice-Chancellor. And we are expecting within the next 2 to 3 weeks to be launching official calls for the support of fellowships, international exchange, the support for meetings and courses over the period of the next couple of years, as well as collaborative research grants. And these grants are intended to support scientific activities in our partners. But one of the main aims that we really want to do is to really encourage people to come back to the University of Venda. People who have gone overseas, maybe doing a great postdoc, but they want to come back home and establish their own research programs. So I really do encourage the University of Venda the management, if you have people who fall into that category, they're the individuals we would really like to be able to support through this program. I should also like to congratulate the management at Venda. When we visited there last year, I remember very clearly what a wonderful day we had. The facilities are fantastic. The commitment of the faculty is unbelievable. It was really a tremendous experience. But also, they had the foresight to put us in a major lecture hall where we could have all the students as well. And that is fundamental. We need to be able to interact with your students and your postdocs. And I thought that was a really tremendous experience. And it was through those interactions that we were able to sort of really kickstart this collaboration. And we made those interactions and got things moving way ahead of signing an agreement. So it's very important that we engage with the young people and convey to them the opportunities that this agreement will bring. So thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I really look forward to a fantastic collaboration. Thank you again.
Now I would like to invite the Vice Chancellor and Dr. Banks for the signing of the MoU. Before I'll let you guys go, I would pass the floor to Ms. Chaba to...
Thank you very much, Dr. Sabini, and thank you to the Vice Chancellor and Dr. Banks for really making this a historical day for us. I forgot to indicate one particular member of our staff who was very instrumental in making this possible. It will be an unforgivable sin if I don't mention his name. His name is synonymous to the ICGEB. I might as well call him Mr. Doelani ICGEB Nditwane, whose portfolio is the ICGEB. Thank you so much, Doelani.
Thank you, Mampe. I think this is just the initial step for a fruitful collaboration between the both institutions in the future. And in fact, as Dr. Banks said, we are already seeing the results from these interactions. There are some activities that are already being in place, And I'm pleased to see the signing of this MOU, especially in terms of the ICGEB capital component, and I look forward for even more and more interactions with University of Venda. With this, I thank you everybody to be here today, in particular to the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Benz, and Ms. Chaba, close to me, and have a good day.
So we have a small gift that you want to present to few people, just to commemorate this occasion. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. So this is presented to Dr. Banks. Thank you very much. And next we have Ms. Chaba. And also Dr. Luis Sabini. Will it be possible to have a group picture before we disperse?